All right, cyber traders, welcome on back here this Friday afternoon, June 4th. Last one for the week here at 2:30 Eastern time here for our afternoon meeting. Great to see all of our students. Michael, James, Ray, who actually just killed it just before on the AMC trade. He posted $1.80 per share profit. He was in on the long from the squeeze up from 49. Great trade from Ray. And great to see all of our students, Gene, Norman, Kevin, Kathleen, all of our students alike live inside Cyber Group, all of us on social media, Facebook Live, YouTube. Welcome on back. Let's start by going over the BBIG trade to begin, right? It's on the screen to start, so we'll start by going over this one. But, otherwise, we had success across the board. Mainly across the percent gainers list, like the LEDS trade, SENS, of course, the BBIG here, but, plenty of others. So let's talk about this to begin, and then really we'll just run it from top to bottom. I know the Reddit stocks are trying to make a small, little squeeze up so far. I know I just mentioned Ray cleaning up on the AMC trade. BlackBerry made a small pop just now, over 14. We'll talk about that as well. But let's, BBIG to begin. This ended up making a nice pop early in pre-market, shortly after 8:30 Eastern time. This ended up making the pop. I think to this point right now, I still don't see or have a news headline on this trade. That's fine. We don't need to have news in order to trade a stock. We don't need to have news in order to have a stock move up or down. But, you'd like to have that catalyst, a real actual reason as to why the stock is being pushed up outside of just, Reddit traders or whomever, But nonetheless, this ended up making as good of a squeeze as we can get. And I don't say that in terms of just, percentage across the day. It's up 43+% at this point going into the afternoon. But it's more or less just the fact that this has given us numerous attempts of, taking this trade off of breakouts. It popped from right around 350. It popped on a really tough trade off of 4 going into 1 o'clock. It took a few false breakouts from there, but it paid off, right? The buying that came in early from the morning at 4, thankfully was seeing the stock, slowly build up and trend up to that 4 level later on, ended up leading to a nice squeeze up going into the early afternoon. Now, the part that was relatively easy for me to call out here, one of us was like, no false breakout. No, false breakout, definitely. To see a stock make this big of a squeeze up across the whole day, see this make a move all the way up to a major resistance at 5. And, whole number, one thing, it's a psychological level, just you would figure to sell not just at a whole number, but even at like a $5 incremental number, like 5, 10, 15, 20. You'd think that. But just to confirm it, Bookmap level 4 showed, and I called it out, a 155,000 share iceberg on the ask right at $5. So to see the stock build all the way up to that major resistance, the first time it tests that level, I'm expecting a false breakout. And if it doesn't happen, then that just goes against what happens more often than not, right? I'd rather put my money, my risk into what happens more often than not. So I expected a false breakout from here. I guess it popped up like 24 cents up from that price, but that's not the type of trade I'm looking for. We're not scalpers here. There might be a couple of us here that are, but I'm not. I don't, only look for scalps. I'm going to look for trades that give me as good of a chance to make money. I probably should have stayed in this BBIG trade off of 450. Going into this meeting, I ended up seeing this collapse back down, and I ended up taking an entry from 450, and I ended up just getting out right at 461, I think. I took 11 cents. Probably could have held on a bit longer. I just didn't want to have a nasty shake on this trade while I'm doing this meeting. So I don't know. You tell me. It's trading 90 million shares plus going into the afternoon, for a stock that trades. Prior to today, stock was trading about 5 to 6 million shares on average per day. That's a good amount. That's like sideless stock material for us inside Cyber Group. From Michael and Ray and James. I definitely keep this in mind for next week. Is it as likely to make this next big move up in the next hour and 20 minutes on a Friday? I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe I'll come back to this at the end. BBIG, I put it on the back end here, but I feel like most of the run is done at this point. Maybe we'll come back to this trade at the end. All right, but otherwise, let's just go from top to bottom now, see what else we can get. The LEDS trade ended up making a big run once again from earlier today. Once again, much like this past week, has dumped right back down. Shortly afterwards, ended up making a big squeeze after the market opened from 17 up towards just, over 28. That's a really nice run. But, I say this all the time. And I'm happy, actually, one of our new gold students inside Cyber Group and inside our trading room, Patrick, he ended up bringing up a line to me that I say to you folks in this meeting every day. I was happy he did so. When the volume dies off, So does the stock. Look at the volume bars. Look at the stock. Speaks for itself, right? So, this is not the type of stock you want to get stuck holding on to, turning a day trade, just across the day. God bless this pushed up over time, but, that was not our intent, upon calling the stock out from yesterday, from the end of last week, even back on Friday when this first popped. That wasn't our intent. So, it's great to see this make like almost a 3x move from where we first called it out back from the end of May. But for now, I mean, I only expect this to dump off heading into the close, probably going into Monday morning next week. All right, so the SENS here, we'll just keep going. This one, I mean, ended up making a really good move from earlier today. I was pretty upset. I missed this move from 270. And I was watching that level all across pre-market. I forgot the news out on this stock. I'm not going to check, but it's just 270 was a really big buying level from pre-market from this morning early on. And I was waiting for that pop. And after the market opened, it only continued to tail off. That didn't surprise me, but I took my eyes off the stock for longer than I should have. And I came back to it when I was at like 282, 283. I didn't want to chase. I was looking for a pullback, never got it, just ended up moving on to a different stock. So, man, this ended up making as good of a run as you could imagine just from that 270 level. A little false breakout at first, then it made the real move. At least for right now, though, it ended up pulling back down to 280 at least, and then making the bounce here. So it still seems pretty active, this SENS trade. Otherwise, I'd say I'll put this in the same line of thinking as BBIG. To see the stock make such a big move up once and it dumped back down, it's not near the highs here. So, it's making a great run right now. I'll come back to it at the end. Put this on the side list here. Come back to it at the end. If it, really makes a stronger move up over 3 by the time we finish this meeting, then I'll be more convinced. This WINT trade, want to go over it really quick. We're not going to put this on our list just yet. Probably not, at least by the end of it. But, the news out on this trade, I think it was Oppenheimer, ended up making like a price target of $8 on this stock. Right? Let me ask everybody, this goes across the board. For all of us in social media, you folks that watch me here every weekday in the afternoons, I want you to take part. Answer this question for me. For all of us inside Cyber Group, of course, you folks know. Here's the question. This week, there was another stock that came out with news of a really absurd price target. I mean, even more absurd than giving a $2.50 stock like WINT an $8 price target. What stock was that from this past week? It was a stock where a firm gave a $25 price target on it. Patrick, first the punch there. He asks VTNR. You're absolutely right. VTNR, they ended up, what was it, Friday last week it was even, when it was a $2.50 stock or whatever it was here pre-market just on this gap. That's when the news came out. They gave a $25 price target. I said it back then, I'll say it now. You don't want to hold your breath waiting for that exact number to hit. But when it was at $2.50, $3, wherever, is it impossible to see the stock make a move to 5? I don't think so. I think it's definitely possible. Is it possible for it to make a move maybe to 7 or 8? I mean, hey, they gave it a $25 price target, so that's not even halfway there. All right, well, we've seen this happen also on other stocks like SEAL. SEEL, I remember back a couple months ago, a firm gave like $4 stock a $15 price target. Over time, look what happened. Now, again, you don't want to hold your breath waiting for that exact number to hit, but, just for this morning at least, with that last trade, the WINT, to see Oppenheimer come out with an $8 price target when it was a $2.50 stock. I don't know. You do the math for me. Is it impossible to see this stock make a move up to 3? I mean, obviously it happened, right? So that was like one of my better trades from this morning. I mean, I was waiting for that exact move based on, just what we've seen inside Cyber Group with VTNR, with the SEAL trade. Right now, this is actually making the push that I was hoping for it to make, at least off of 275 going into the early afternoon. This stock ended up making like a really strong resistance off of 275 in pre-market. And that's what led to this first squeeze up here ultimately. But you know what? I'll probably come back to this at the end. It ended up making a big move up early. I don't expect for it to make this big continued move up. It's like in the same exact line, just like SENS and BBIG, at least here. So nice trade from the morning. Maybe keep it in mind for next week, Monday. Maybe I'll come back to it at the end. We'll see. All right, LPTH. This one's making or at least by 2 o'clock, it popped over 3. Had a really choppy stock, though. This thing looks tough. I'm not really too thrilled by this one. I mean, it's like near the highs, dropping off the highs as we speak. But, going into the afternoon, a lot of buying came in off this squeeze from like roughly 285-ish up towards 320. But I don't know. I feel like ever since the volume waned back down, and like I said, so typically so does the stock. I ended up missing this. Look at the daily chart on this stock too. I mean, we've seen this just across, a couple stocks even today. See a stock pump in the beginning of 2021 from like $25 all the way to over 120, then dumps all the way back down. I mean, you rarely see that type of move in such a short amount of time. But when that does happen, it does provide at least hope to see a small squeeze up. When news comes out, if there's unusual options activity, whatever it may have been that led to this pop at like 11 o'clock Eastern time. But, it's just easy to say. But once it broke out over 28, once the volume kicked in, that's what led to this run. For the afternoon, going to pass on it. Just order book pretty thin. Already made its big move. All right. NCTY was more of a trade from this morning as well. This one we ended up putting on our pre-market watch list, trended up really nicely, at least early on this morning. It took a while to get the gears going here, but once it broke out above resistance, seemingly off of 1380-ish going into the early afternoon, that's what led to the next run on this. So, granted, this is another one of those trades, just like the EH, right? This is exactly what I was alluding to. I mean, EH, NCTY, my belief is that they have to be in the same business, same industry. I'm not going to check right now. I need to break it to you. But, it just goes to show, look at the pattern on the daily chart. A very similar steep run up, very similar steep dump off here. And, you just hope to see off of news or any catalyst that could lead to buying to see a continued run up. So nice pump, dump back down, though, unfortunately. Again, good side list stock for next week just to begin. All right, we'll keep it cruising here, folks. We'll kind of just skim through the rest of the gainers list for right now. I wanted to really just touch upon the ones that were at the top. F-Tech at the high of the day. Volume looks really crappy here. The volume bars and trading about 3,000 to 4,000 shares per minute. That's tough to expect a real momentum-based run. Familiar names here coming up, though. You got EYES, EYES, and this. I guess I missed this. Popped earlier. I joke when I say this, but I'm also serious. When EYES pops, so does ears. Typically does. Today, a really ugly chart on ears from the morning. But, when you happen to see EYES make a big squeeze up, I always tend to look at them. Oftentimes, they correlate. I guess not as much today. That made me look a little silly. But you could see back from, mid-February here, March time perhaps, as EYES popped, ears ended up taking off. All right, let's see what else we got here otherwise. ODP, not really too much volume on that one. Lizzie, familiar name here, pumped up, recently back in late May, early June here, dumped back down. So for right now, not really too interested. All right, let's hop over to the losers list, folks. We'll check on the 5-minute chart, looking on the SPY, the S&P ETF graph. You could just see, cruising on up, heading into the close. So I wouldn't expect to find so many stocks down percentage-wise. Aside from the Reddit trades like AMC and BB and, Workhorse here that dropped off nicely. This was a great short from the morning. I ended up below in this trade in the afternoon. I was short right from 13. I knew this thing was going to make a big squeeze, either the break off of 1316 resistance that I had lined up, or, and I was talking to Patrick about this, the break below 13 here, and I ended up taking the short. I got out just at a bad price. I was juggling around a few different positions, and you really shouldn't be doing that here at 1:30 in the afternoon on a Friday. It's the worst time to be trading. So I had way too many things going on when I shouldn't have. I should have been more focused on this trade, and I should have held on. I got out at 1289, 1287 around there, and a bad exit. Ended up dropping back down. I could have done a lot better on this trade. Dropped off to a low of the day, basically at 1250, and squeezed up. So, hey, with Workhorse, it's a Reddit stock, so to say, very heavily shorted over the last many months. Has been moving with BlackBerry and the others of late. BB on the way down, cruising. Ray, good exit on AMC because if BlackBerry's dropping off as steadily as it is here, I hope this doesn't lock up my screen. AMC is just so choppy. Disaster trade here. Disaster stock. Nice catch from 49, Ray. That's for sure. You got it. All right, let's see what else we got, though, across the Cyber Group room. Otherwise, I see from Kathleen LI, high of the day. And, if there's anything else, folks, for all of us on social media, Facebook Live, for all of us in the trading room, anything up, down, left, right, more than 5% you would want me to look at, just type it in the chat board. Oh, no, Ray, I know that you're not in AMC anymore today. That was a great exit I was referencing on your part. I was saying with BB dropping, AMC had to have been trailing back down there. They have pretty good correlation. LI, high of the day, though. Getting back to Kathleen's call, not up 5% or more. I mean, I just say that to say it. It's at the highest here, and it has been breaking higher across this whole week. So this LI trade, really good call. I like this. I'll tell you right now, I actually just went through the whole gainers and losers list. This might be the first time I've been doing the afternoon meeting here with Fausto back from like 2016 early, like January. So over 5.5 years of doing this exact meeting for you folks. This is the first time, I don't remember another time, where I've done this meeting from top to bottom across the gainers and losers list. I look down on my notepad right now. I had 0 stocks on our main list, like not even a single stock that I looked at that was like, oh, this looks really strong, looks really good. I wrote down the SENS on the side list, WINT, BBIG. LI looks definitely good so far. So at least we have 1 stock on our whole main list. We're going to definitely add more, but that was really interesting. I just looked down on my notepad. I'm like, well, that's the first time that's ever happened, really, for me ever. I've been doing this for 5.5 years, this meeting. So let's just see what else we got. Mike says WKHS spiked off the 1250 area. Yeah, I mean, we could put that on our list. It is shortable. It's squeezing back up, just relatively volatile in a good way. So I like that. So we'll add Workhorse. The others are hard to borrow. So if you get a complete dump off on the others, you wouldn't be able to short them. Like the Reddit stocks there. I don't know. Maybe check out Space, Palantir, some other side list stocks that may move with the market, perhaps. Who knows? Palantir, almost like a head and shoulders building roughly off of like 2420. Neo just slumping around there around 42. What else did we have? Tiger, Mavis, UAVS, right? There are plenty of others that popped and ran from earlier today. So TIGR, another one that made a slingshot after the morning, kind of dumping off here. There's our Mavis trade, MVIS. This one popped more so going into 1 o'clock. The news on this, I think it was just featured on CNBC. I mean, just crazy pop and spikes. So you would figure news came out on this stock. It did. It was just featured on CNBC. They just said that they were pretty high on the stock as a final trade for today. Clearly, that didn't really hold up too well. Ended up running all the way up to 23, all the way back down. I don't know. I think it's just going to continue to kind of coast sideways and perhaps even drop more. The RESN trade from Norman. Is that the highs? I don't know if I skipped over this or not. Is that 4? Big level. I like it. Good call. See, that's why I always toss it to you folks here at the end. We got to work together as a team. Sometimes I'll go through, the gainers and losers list a little quick, and there might be stocks that I think that don't look good just by looking at the name or the volume, and otherwise you folks call it out for me. And yeah, this one, I mean, you might want to give it a little bit. Don't be too rushed to jump into this thing. It doesn't look like the fastest mover, but see what happens if we have more buying off of 4. It's a good call out for right now. All right, I'm going to jump it over to Benzinga Pro. I can't show it here today. I'm working from my home office compared to yesterday, but let's see. Mosey, yeesh, on the way down. This is like a straight nosedive here. Stock EM, that's at the highs, but gross. It's like untradeable. All right, so you know what? I think there's a reason why I had 0 stocks on our main list after I finished going through everything. There's not much for us to like really trade so far, folks. So, granted, keep your eyes out on the Reddit stocks. Namely, I'll go with Workhorse and BlackBerry out of those. I'll add BlackBerry to our main list. It's pretty volatile. Maybe it'll build up and make a squeeze again. But aside from that, I'll tell you, it's gross out there. This WINT trade trying to make a squeeze, trying to prove me wrong and make another run back up. That was the one that had the $8 price target. So, you know what? I might be more keen to put this on our list there. WINT, if it could, make a higher low, hold over 3 well. SENS not looking that great. BBIG, it's holding its own here. I don't really feel a need to put this on the main list just yet. Listen, if this ends up making a pop, we'll be there to call it out. All right. Really quick question. Just had a private chat come in. Oh, this was from like 2:30. I'm sorry, like 20 minutes ago. I'm sorry. One of our traders just messaged me asking regarding BBIG. So it hit support around 555. Hit around 555. To the trader private messaging me, I don't know if you're referencing another stock or maybe another level. Maybe you meant 450. So 450, 50-cent level, just you would figure to be a potential support, and I watched it drop down. So my entry on this trade was at 450 on the nose, like basically on this bar, and I definitely should have held on longer. But nonetheless, 450 as a 50-cent level is a potential support. Doesn't mean that I was guaranteeing it for it to hold. I mean, I took 11 cents, could have done a lot better, but I was afraid of it dropping off. For as much as it ran up, it's a low float stock and, very heavily traded. So I'm not going to put it on our list for that exact reason. I think it's more likely to dump back down. But should we happen to see this, run back up in the next hour, then, we'll try and react to it at that point. I think for right now, otherwise, we have a pretty good list at this point now. Finally, we have about 5 stocks to work with here so far heading into this afternoon. All right, so for all of us on social media, Facebook Live, YouTube, first and foremost, enjoy your weekend. I hope it's nice out where you folks are. If you have any other questions for all of us on social media, Facebook Live, YouTube, I've posted my email address on here a few times. My email address, josh@c2trading.com. Any questions, thoughts, comments, suggestions regarding this meeting, feel free to email me. Otherwise, if you're interested in joining us here weekdays, Monday to Friday, feel free to sign up just for a quick small trial membership to our live trading room. Just go right down to the link on the banner below just to get started. All right, so for all of us there, Norman, Ray, Carol, Patrick, Michael, I'll talk to you folks coming up pretty shortly. I'm going to post and tweet the pics here in just a bit. Take care.